Hi, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, our little pool is creating quite a lot of interest, both from people who are in the know, and the information that they're giving, advice is very much appreciated, and we are listening, and we are learning, and we are implementing. Now, one of the things that obviously comes from America, it comes from America because the Americans tend to start a lot of things off, that reverberate around the world. And what happens in America is very often the forerunner to major changes in all kinds of stuff. Well, what is it about a pool that makes it important in America? Well, when children are lost because of pool safety, then Americans will rush in and they will try to do something, legislate, bring in some rules, and they'll try to prevent that from happening, and this is a very good thing. If you think for a moment about the rules that the Americans have brought in for say cars, that they brought in all kinds of stuff. They did inventions for the automobile which are really vital. Americans tend to go for big engines. That is one thing that they do, big engines, big cars, and it took them a while to realize that there was another way, and that the Europeans have been doing it very, very well for a number of years. So it's more recent that they've started to make the smaller engines, which they failed at first. But anyway, they invented things for which nobody ever seems to realize that the credit goes to the Americans. Things like intermittent speed, windshield wipers, windshield washers, all stuff like that, which actually you just can't do without. When you 4 years ago I bought a very old Volkswagen Beetle, and I spent money on it. That's before I met my wife, and I spent money on it that I had then, and I did it up. I actually met the mechanic, and he lived down the road from where I eventually moved in, and I became a friend of the family, and I used to go down and spend a lot of time there, just sit, talk, and he would do the work on the VW. Well, once it was all finished, it looked a beauty, but it was only when I started to drive it that I realized that what I had was an old car. So sometimes we do these things, don't we, and we think that they're going to be like a modern car. Well, that's thanks to the American motor industry. They have brought out some of the most stringent rules on safety, door handles, all kinds of things, softer material on the dash, and they're to be congratulated. Well, what about safety on our pool? Well, on our pool, what's the safety issues there? Well, we certainly need to have a pool that is clean, because otherwise people get diseases. And the only way that I know that you're clean is either to have one of those pools which is seawater and it's being constantly, constantly changed. The water is constantly changed, and I think that you don't have to go overboard on the filtration system. Of course, I could be wrong. So, keeping it clean. Well, you need to have an exit for the water to go into another station where a filtration unit is there. So it goes into the filtration unit, and then it's sent out, and it's sent out to various exits that are around the side of the pool. Well, we've got that organized. We've got one exit that looks like a big plug hole at the bottom of the pool. As soon as you have that, then come the fears that some kid is going to go down there, think, oh, that looks interesting, what's that? And goes down there and he can feel that there's water being sucked out, and the next thing he knows, he can't get off because he's being sucked down. So, the drain, does it suck? Well, it would suck, wouldn't it, if it hurt a kid, that's for sure. But what we found is, and this has been told by one of our subscribers, Wayne, who has said that they've changed an awful lot about this, and what they did was they redesigned the cover for the drain. So now, instead of having to have an extra drain, have two drainage points, you can have have a redesigned cover which will not allow for enough suction to go from any one point in that. It's kind of, from what I saw this at the resort we went to a few days ago, last weekend in fact, and it looked like an upturned frisbee, and it had holes all around, like a cross between a frisbee and a UFO. So even if you put your hand down there when the pump was full on, you couldn't be sucked down. So that they've handled that, and we of course will handle that too. So safety is first, because we're putting this down, and yes, it was a gift to Beth, but the offshoot of that is that we have a ton of kids, and this will be used by that ton of kids and will provide a great deal of pleasure on those hot sunny days, which we get our share of. So the drain, does it suck? No, it won't. Well, it won't suck now because of the covers, and we've got that handled. Somebody else said, well, they're looking at the cinder block way that we've built the thing, and they've said, well, how will you stop it from leaking? Well, it will be rendered smooth, obviously in sand and cement, and it will be proof against leakage there. But then on top of that, it has to be tiled, so that also has to come as well. So it will be tiled. We'll work out how much. There's a calculation that they do, which I don't need to know right now, but I will have to learn it eventually. And then, so that it doesn't just breed mosquitoes, we will be putting in chlorine and other, I think, muriatic acid. But as I say, I don't need to know it right now, and it will be a thing that comes from scooping into whatever's needed. And also we may have to put a cover over there, which will, I mean a top cover, like an overhead shade, and we may do that so that we don't keep getting the chemicals will be disappearing under the sun. So we'll handle that too. So now the main thing, the main decision, which will be a very unpopular one because the pool will look finished, it will be working, and the thing that I will suggest is that we put the fence up first. So rather than put any water into the pool, we'll put a fence around it, and the fence will be secure against little guys. It will be enough that they can't climb over it. I know that may be a challenge, but let's face it, nothing is 100% safe on anything. But we will do our very best. We'll put a fence around. It will be a metal fence, and it will be at a sufficient height to stop little guys like Batchoy from getting in. Now, that we'll do before we fill the pool, because after we fill the pool, that you'll be able to stand there all day saying no kids allowed, and as soon as you turn your back, there'll be kids in there. So my answer to that is, before we fill it, we'll get the fence up, and we'll make sure that before anybody ever steps into that, it's safe and easy to get out without having to be carried out, drowned, and it will be safe for those kids who shouldn't be there, and we'll make sure that they don't get there. So hope that allays a few of the fears that we've had, and we are intending, even though it's a tiny pool. Somebody said, well, actually that's not really a swimming pool, is it? Well, no, it's not. It's a play pool, but I think it will provide a lot of help. Now, this is not we're not soliciting funds for this. We are able to handle our own things. We're not in desperation. We're not in need. We're not going without food. We are doing very well, thanks. And I have money of my own. I have pensions which we're able to use, plus money which we earn from various things. I sell books, as does Beth, and there's a lot going on here that's not just dependent on asking. So that's what we're at with the swimming pool. Thanks for looking in. This is a foreigner in the Philippines. We're looking forward to showing you everybody in their swimsuits, and hope that will be soon. Bye for now.